Greetings from Mental Box Land. This is Jesse Cohen, your host, creator and founder of the Mental Box concept, brand, and framework. If you're a man that sees the world through deeper lenses and has a transformational view of masculinity, subscribe now. I have over 20 years experience working with men in the college counseling system, and I look forward to sharing ideas moving forward. So let's get started today by talking about men and emotions. How do we gain awareness of these emotions and attain balance with as many emotions as possible? Well, the first practical step is getting into the mindset of objectivity. Emotions, they all have a purpose. Think of them as little puppies you bring home. They're all running around wild all over the house, and each one has value, and you have to learn how to train each one. Once we get in that mindset, that's where we really start doing this work. So society tells us that emotions like anger have a negative connotation, where emotions like love have positive connotations. Well, we as men know eventually that anger is a great motivator. And how do men channel anger appropriately? Mainly through athleticism, pushing our bodies to the limit, learning how to face conflict with other men head on. Whether we're playing contact sports and dealing with conflict, or whether we're doing solitary sports like running, or just shadow boxing, and we learn to have time to face our own stress head on. Let's look at love on the opposite side of the spectrum. Society tells us that love or anything pleasurable has a positive connotation. But we all know by watching many dating gurus that getting attached to this love emotion has a lot of negative consequences. It's a feeling of connectedness. So the emotion controls us, we don't control it. So that's the idea of the mental box, to view all emotions as objectively as possible and channel them all appropriately. Once we get comfortable with the mindset of viewing emotions or emotional states objectively, we start to become mentally aware of all of our emotional states. There's many of them. Sometimes we don't even realize how many there are until we actually write them down. But of course, we need a lot of time with ourselves. Two of the tool sets in the mental box, self-awareness and discernment, help us to make mental notes of as many emotional states as possible. So once we get in that mindset of thinking of emotions objectively and becoming aware of as many emotional states as possible, the next step is to delve into the idea restraint versus repression. I've been pondering this idea for many years, working, counseling men of all ages, 20s, 30s, 40s, and working with my own emotional states over the years. And I've come to the conclusion that restraint is the awareness of the emotion, the way to properly channel it, as opposed to repression is the unawareness of the emotion. And when you're unaware of the emotion, it's still there, it's just deeper down. The deeper it's repressed, the more it controls you. So let me illustrate restraint versus repression through a story. There was a man I knew years ago. He worked at a restaurant. One of his counterparts was a younger man in college that needed the money. And he just was supplementing his income, so the job wasn't as important to him. And he walked into this situation one day where something happened and he was blamed for something that younger college student did. And he took it like a man. He knew that college student needed the job more than he did. And even though he was humiliated in that situation, he kept quiet, he took the blame, he took the humiliation, and that was hard. He must have felt it before. As a man, he must have gotten comfortable with that emotion. So when he felt it in that moment, he didn't let the humiliation control him. Let's look at the other example in that situation, which would be repression. We all know in situations, even when we're young kids and someone blames us for something we didn't do, we immediately react. Oh, it wasn't me. Oh, it was him or her. It wasn't me. That's a reaction because we are uncomfortable with that humiliation, that shame of doing something wrong. We're so uncomfortable with it. It's so repressed that when it comes out of us, like a cobra ready to attack once the lid of the cage is lifted, when it comes out of us like that, we react. And that's exactly why it wasn't me. That's exactly why we react that way, because we're uncomfortable with that humiliation and we want it to go away as soon as possible. When it's all bottled up, it shows itself, it shows its ugly face. Let me conclude this video talking about the desire for women. This is definitely an emotional issue because desire comes from lust. These are emotions that surface for men. And we have to learn how to control these emotions, just like all of the other ones. And if they control us, it's going to lead us down a path of bad relationships. And we all might know all the different variations of that. But lust, let's look at that. That's an emotion. We as men, we feel that. It's natural. We don't want to repress it. We want to feel it, get comfortable with it. But once we get comfortable with it, we could control it. We don't have to hang out with all of these women. We don't need their approval. We don't need to define ourselves as men just by attracting as many women as possible. And men that do this get in situations where they're sleeping around and dating a lot of women at once. But men that control that emotion, they learn to be monogamous and make a deep connection with one woman. They're patient, trying to think of taking a soda that has fallen on the floor, and you know if you just like flip the top, you know the soda's gonna shoot out. Little at a time, let it out, little by little, and over time, finally the air comes out and you don't have soda all over the place. We as men that can control that emotion, we know how to create a long-lasting, meaningful relationship. And we channel those feelings of lust and even love, bringing that into it. Lust has that negative connotation, love has the positive, but both could be overused in negative ways. But when we control and balance them, we're going to use that love emotion, we're going to use that lust, we're going to build on it slowly with the woman and have a meaningful, long-lasting relationship. On that note, stay tuned for my next video.